Hi everyone, I'm Katrina Hansen. I'm a licensed acupuncturist and herbalist, and I'm super excited to be speaking with you today about immunity and what that has to do with our uterine health and our menstrual health and ovarian cysts and endometriosis and fibroids and all the things that can crop up when we don't have good pelvic circulation, when we don't have good immunity, and when our gut balance is off. So I'm going to be sharing a little bit of information with you about all of that today. But first, I want to tell you a little bit about my story and why I got into this. So I have endometriosis myself. I struggled with painful periods and digestive symptoms and fatigue and joint pain and anxiety pretty much all of my life since I was a teenager, and was seeing lots of different doctors trying to figure out what was going on, not getting basically a holistic diagnosis about the one root cause of all of those problems. They were all seen individually. When I finally got a diagnosis, the only options that I was told about were hormones or surgery. And I had tried hormones before and it didn't work for me. And I did try the surgery and they weren't able to do as much as they said that they were going to be able to do. So I didn't have very significant results. And that's the case for a lot of my clients that I've worked with. And so I got into this medicine and I continue to work in this medicine because I want to offer other alternative options to my clients and a way of working on the root of the issues rather than just trying to cover it up with hormones or cut it out, right? So that's a lot of what we're going to be talking about today is why does this happen in the first place? What is the root of this issue? First of all, a lot of these conditions like endometriosis and fibroids and PCOS and adenomyosis, we don't necessarily know all of the information yet. There's not a lot of funding in women's health in research, so we don't have as much information as we should about why these things happen in the first place, but we do have a lot of ideas based in science and based on what we know about how the body functions. And one of those is about the immune system and how the immune system is tied to both the lymphatic system and the gut. So that's what we're talking about today. So I love Chinese medicine as an acupuncturist. It's a super holistic way of looking at the body and really getting deep into the root of what your constitution is, what's specific to your body, and also what is the specific problem that's going on for you right now and how can we tackle that from every angle in a really balanced way. So that's what I like to do in my practice for myself and for my clients. And a piece of that also is working on diet and lifestyle and exercise and sleep and mental health and all of those things as well. You can't have holistic medicine without basically looking at all of the pieces of your life and your self-care and what you're putting into your body on a daily basis, how you're treating your body on a daily basis, because all of that is going to be affecting you. So I'll give you a few tips today of what you can do at home to support your immune system and your gut to help prevent menstrual issues from coming up and deal with the ones that you have already. So some of this information is about the lymph system and immunity, and some of it's going to be about our gut health. And I'll show you a little bit about how those things are connected together. So you've already learned a little bit about the lymph system and having good circulation and flow through the pelvis and getting good detox from the uterus and detoxing through the lymph to get rid of toxins and estrogens and things that might accumulate there. The lymph system is very intricately tied to the immune system. Our immune cells that are on the lookout for invaders and protecting us most of the time are hanging out in the lymph system. They only kind of come out of the lymph system when we need them in other places. So the lymph system is a huge piece of immunity. If our lymph system isn't flowing properly, if we're cutting it off by sitting all day or wearing super tight clothing, we're not moving our bodies enough, our immune system is going to be affected. Another piece of the immune system that we don't often think about is the gut. There are actually tissues in the intestines called Peyer's patches that play a role in immune function as well. They're there to make sure that we have the good bacteria in our gut at all times and to get rid of the bad bacteria and other yeasts and viruses and things that might be coming through our digestive system, making sure that they're getting taken care of immediately before they get into our bodies. So having good lymph flow and having good digestive function are really key for supporting our immunity. And so we know that lymph flow is also really key for supporting our menstrual health because it helps bring circulation to the uterus, get rid of toxins, get rid of estrogens, get rid of any endometrial cysts or other tissues that are floating around in the abdomen that our body should be taking care of. We also know that conditions like endometriosis and other menstrual conditions also often come with gut symptoms. So we often see menstrual symptoms with IBS-like symptoms, with bloating, with nausea. The gut and the uterus have the link there. And so what we're basically looking at is that if our lymph system isn't functioning properly, we're going to be accumulating toxins, accumulating estrogen in the abdomen. Those can both contribute to menstrual issues. We're also not going to have good immune system function. If our immune system is not functioning properly, not only is it supposed to take care of outside pathogens that are coming into the body, but it's also supposed to take care of things that are originating in our body. So going with the example of endometriosis, if we have a little bit of endometrial tissue in the abdomen, our immune system should be able to take care of that, get rid of it. If our immune system is not functioning properly, it's not going to do that. And that tissue can stay in the abdomen, it can adhere to other tissues, and it can turn into endometriosis. So if we're really looking at the root of why do these things happen, why do we form ovarian cysts, why do we form endometrial implants, why do we form fibroids, why do we form adenomyosis, why do all of these accumulations of tissues happen? The main root is that our bodies should be essentially digesting those things for us. That stuff comes up. We get cancer cells even in our body. That's a normal thing that happens. And then our immune system takes care of them and gets rid of them, and we don't get cancer. And that's the same thing for this. We get random endometrial cells. We get random cells where they shouldn't be. We get random accumulations of tissue, and then our immune system takes care of it and it gets rid of those things, and it's not a problem for us. So when we have an issue like an ovarian cyst, where we're seeing that the body is not taking care of those tissues, not digesting them, not getting rid of them, then we know that there's an issue with the immune system, with the lymphatics, of not being able to clean things up appropriately, not having a good system to flush out toxins, flush out estrogens, not having a good system to attack and digest errant tissues that shouldn't be there, that can accumulate. So we need to be supporting that lymph circulation. We need to be supporting those immune cells that are taking care of those tissues that need to be gotten rid of. And the gut health comes in because not only do we have those Peyer's patches, those tissues in the gut itself that are working with are a part of the immune system, attacking cells that are trying to get in that way, but they are also balancing our gut microbiome, making sure that we have good, healthy bacteria that helps us to digest our food and helps us to reduce inflammation and helps us to move to waste out through the bowel. If we don't have a good, healthy gut microbiome, it's going to impact our immunity. It's gonna create inflammation. We're not gonna have as good of a way of flushing out toxins. We can have more toxin accumulation. We can reabsorb estrogens in the bowel if things sit in there too long. So we're kind of looking at the same problem, just in two different areas. The lymph system and the gut are both part of our immune system, tackling invaders that are coming in and attacking the body, and also tackling tissues that are accumulating within the body that aren't supposed to be there. And they're also about flushing out toxins and flushing out estrogen. So we need both of those systems going in order to effectively do all of that. And if that's not happening, we get an accumulation of toxins, we get an accumulation of estrogen, like estrogen dominance that tends to go along with a lot of these conditions. We get low immunity, we get sick a lot, we get fatigued easily, we get inflammation and pain and bloating and digestive symptoms and pain in other parts of the body, just general inflammation. So all of this is tied together, and those things, especially inflammation, can have a big impact on our mental health as well. And our mental health can have a big impact on reducing inflammation too. So we're basically seeing this cycle of how all of these things come together and influence not only our menstrual health, but our whole health as a person, right? And how all of our systems are tied together and what we need to be functioning properly and feeling good. So we talked about the lymph system and how that helps get rid of tissues, get rid of toxins, get rid of estrogens. And if it's not working properly, we can get an accumulation of those things like ovarian cysts and other issues. We talked about the immune system being connected to the lymph system and being connected to the gut and the microbiome there. We talked about the gut biosis and having good bacteria and good microbes in the gut helping us to digest our food properly so that we don't have as many food issues, and making sure that we don't have bad bacteria and yeast and things that can cause problems and have an impact on our immunity. And I touched on a little bit motility of the gut, because I said that if we don't have good motility, things aren't going to flow through as fast as they need to. They're going to sit in the bowel and then get reabsorbed before they're expelled. So we want things to go through at a good pace, not diarrhea, but having a daily, at least once a day bowel movement that's complete is a good sign that you have motility where you're moving waste through the body before it can be reabsorbed. If it's sitting too long, then you're reabsorbing those toxins and you're reabsorbing that estrogen, which can also contribute to estrogen dominance. So working on motility, working on the gut biome, and working on the flow of the lymph system and boosting our overall immunity are going to have a big impact on our menstrual health. So I'm going to share with you a couple of things that we can do to work on all of that. But first, I want to tell you a little bit about what Chinese medicine thinks about all of this, because that's where my expertise is. And I think that it just helps make really cool connections between all of these areas that we're looking at. So first of all, there are 5 elements in Chinese medicine, and each person has a main element that's their constitutional type. It's like their genetics, essentially, of what they're born with and what's going to have the most impact on them throughout their life. And for most of us that have menstrual issues like endometriosis and PCOS and fibroids and things like that, we are an earth type, which is actually the digestive system. So most of us, our main issue is the digestive system. Most of us had digestive symptoms in childhood, stomach aches, maybe diarrhea, IBS symptoms, food allergies, food intolerances, even severe GI illnesses in childhood. Sometimes most of us had childhood GI issues, and most of us have GI issues as an adult as well. Continued food allergies and food intolerance, IBS, diarrhea, constipation, bloating, nausea, heartburn, all of that kind of stuff being the root of our issues points us to being an earth type. And also, a lot of us have the earth type face shape. Not everyone, but the earth type face shape is basically having the most noticeable part of your face is either your jaw, your chin, or your mouth. So I have very prominent jaw structure. You can see that I have the earth type face. When you're looking at me, the first thing that you usually notice is like cheekbones, jaw, right? And that's pretty prominent. Not my eyes, not my nose, those are smaller in comparison. So that's an earth type face shape. And a lot of us have that, have like more square faces, large mouths, large chin, any of those kinds of things point to the earth type face shape. That shows that that's your main constitutional area and kind of the root of your issues. So Chinese medicine is showing a lot of us, yes, the gut is the root of your issues. And that can be that gut immunity that we were talking about. It could be that gut motility that we're talking about, the gut biome. Any of these things are going to be key for resolving the reason why we started to have menstrual symptoms. Earth types also tend to crave sweet food. So if your main food craving is sweet things, you're probably an earth type as well. I know that was definitely my main craving, and still a lot of the time is my main craving. And so one of the things that we can do is sort of rerouting that into healthy sweet things. It doesn't mean we have to stay away. It doesn't mean we have to try to suppress that craving. Our bodies are trying to tell us something. I think that we should listen to our cravings when we have a food craving come up. But instead of going to the easiest thing, which is I crave sweet, let's eat sugar, going to healthier sources of sweet foods. There are a lot of really healthy sweet foods, like sweet potatoes, carrots, squash, even chicken is sweet. Rice and grains, all those things are really easy to digest, easy on the digestive system, and they also have a lot of nutrients, and they fulfill that sweet craving. So when we are an earth type, our digestive system is having a hard time digesting more complex foods. We crave sweet things because those tend to be easier to digest and get the nutrients out without having a lot of extra fiber and work and things that need to be happening. So our bodies are actually telling us, go to these simple foods. Eat a sweet potato, eat a potato, eat some rice, eat some chicken, right? Things that are easy to digest and get nutrients out of. We interpret that as wanting sugar, which actually makes all of this stuff worse. It makes inflammation worse, it makes the digestive system worse, it makes our immunity worse. But we can remind ourselves that that's not actually what our bodies are telling us. Our bodies are telling us to eat good, healthy, sweet foods. And we can fill that craving that way. Raw honey as well is a very sweet food and something that can be a great substitute for sugar when you're having a sugar craving. But it has live biotics because it's raw and it doesn't spike the blood sugar the way that processed honey and other sugary things do. So raw honey, again, sweet potatoes, rice, chicken, squash, carrots, any of that stuff is a good food for us earth types and for anyone that's struggling with the digestive system having a hard time. Other things that we can do are, of course, Probiotics, finding the right probiotic for your symptoms, make sure that you have the right one because they all do different things. But another way to do that is just eating fermented foods. So eating sauerkraut, kimchi, if you can eat dairy, then you can do fermented dairy, fermented soy products like tempeh. These are all fermented foods, which means that they have live probiotics in the food. So you don't necessarily need to be taking a supplement if you can get that from your food. So that helps balance that gut biome and boost that immunity and helps us improve our gut motility, detoxing, getting rid of estrogens, all that kind of stuff that we were just talking about. Making sure that we do have enough fiber as well, that we're going to improve that gut motility is important. A lot of foods that are full of fiber are hard to digest. So those of us that struggle with digestion might have a hard time with dark leafy greens, for example. But again, if they're fermented, they're much easier to digest. If they're fully cooked, they're much easier to digest. So if you struggle with eating dark leafy greens like a kale salad, you might be just fine with a sauerkraut that's also those leafy greens, but in a fermented form that's going to be easier on your system. You're going to get fiber and you're also going to get those probiotics. You can also take fiber, but most of the fiber supplements are really intense and a little bit too rough on our sensitive digestive systems. So for me personally, I really like Triphala, which is the Ayurvedic supplement that is good for diarrhea and constipation, because sometimes you don't really know where you're going to be at that day if you're feeling a little sensitive. So it just helps improve motility in general. And so I like that for myself. But there are other gentle fibers that you can look into, or just the gentle fiber foods that can help improve that motility without being too intense on the system. So easy to digest, simple, sweet foods, filling that sugar craving. Fermented foods, boosting our gut biome and our immunity, making sure that we have enough fiber for motility, as well as all of the lymph circulation work, belly massage, making sure that you're moving your body and getting good circulation through the pelvis that you've already been working on. And one other Chinese medicine thing that I just want to bring in around that is that in acupuncture, we have energy channels throughout the body, and each one is associated with an organ. So we were just talking about the earth type. The earth type is the stomach. So that's why it's rooted in the digestive system. So earth types are weak digestion, anxiety, fatigue, and it's rooted in the stomach. So we're working on the gut, and the channel itself follows the lymph system, which is really cool. So we're seeing that connection between lymph and immunity and gut immunity. So it goes through the stomach, that's its organ, but it follows the lymph channels on the side of the neck, down the collarbone. It goes through the lymph channels of the breast. We have a lot of lymph channels there, taking care of toxins there as well. It goes through the abdomen, through the stomach, through the lymph nodes around the pelvic bones and through the groin area. And then it travels down basically the front of the knee. If you find your shin bone, and then there's that muscle just to the outside of the shin bone. So if you're under your knee, one side is the shin bone and the other side is a muscle. In that muscle, there's also a lot of lymph nodes, and the stomach channel runs down that spot as well. And we do a lot of work with acupuncture in that area, on just along the shin bone on that muscle, getting into the lymphatics in there to help boost immunity as well. And so you can also do acupressure yourself, massaging that muscle next to the shin bone, doing your belly massage work. There are a lot of lymph nodes around the belly button. There are lymph nodes in the neck, collarbone area, armpits, breast area, and lymph massage is very, very light. So you're not really getting in there, you're just lightly massaging, and it's more about relaxing the tissues and letting things flow through. And if you notice, those are also places where we tend to get a lot of tension when we're stressed, neck and shoulder tension. If we're really tight, our lymphatics are going to be stuck. So just relaxing and opening up those areas in the hips, those are going to get congested when we're sitting a lot. So making sure we're getting movement, and then the shin massage, light motion there can really help open that up as well. So we talked about lymphatics, immune system, gut biome, and gut motility, and how a lot of us have this root of the digestive system that's so connected to immunity and taking care of toxins, taking care of excess estrogens, and that if we're not in balance, then we're going to get accumulations of those things that can contribute to things like ovarian cysts and other menstrual problems. So I hope that this has given you some ideas today about some ways that you can start taking care of your immune system and your gut at home to help deal with the menstrual issues that you might already have and prevent other ones from flaring up in the future. You know, this has been a really key part of my practice for myself, is working on the digestive system. And it can take a while and it can be really challenging. You can have ups and downs as you're figuring out what works and doesn't work for you. But acknowledging that that's the root of our problems can really help you get the motivation to go there and work on the digestive system that a lot of people don't want to have to mess with. They're like, it's about my uterus, I'll just work on that and not go to these other areas that really do have such a huge dramatic impact. So I'm happy to have shared this information with you today. I hope you found it useful, and I would be happy to answer any further questions.